Not so long ago, in a galaxy called the Milky Way, the famous American entertainment tycoon Mickey Mouse bought Lucasfilms from the Galactic Empire for a staggering $4 billion. This meant that the famous rodent would legally own Star Wars, Indiana Jones, every video game, animation, visual effects, or post-audio production, and presumably any profits made from the exports of Wookiee wool. What that meant for us is that the Galactic Empire wouldn't be able to digitally NQ any more Harrison Ford shots, but instead, Mickey would be milking the proverbial Star Wars bantha, providing us with new Skywalker Saga releases intertwined with Star Wars spin-offs. So far, we've had one of each. In 2015, the world stopped to watch the first product of Disney's Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens, a 32-year-long awaited sequel, even though the fans only knew that they were actually waiting for it for about 12 parsecs. Otherwise, we might as well be calling it The Force Awakens. We probably need to rewrite that. In 2016, Disney provided us with the first A Star Wars story, Rogue One, literally the first Star Wars story no one had asked for about how the Death Star's plans were acquired by the rebels. It's a spin-off of the first 2 paragraphs of the opening crawl, a ballsy move, I'll give them that. Both movies had their own motives of praise as well as reasons for criticism, even though the overall feeling with them was a consensual relief, mainly due to the horrible hours of atrocities we had put up with recently. But when it comes down to it, we are bloodlust-driven savage beasts, hungry for entertainment via trial by combat to the death, and there's only one concern we have as a species as soon as we see 2 of the same out in the open. Which one was better? On one hand, we have The Force Awakens, a movie about a dissident stormtrooper and a girl whose lineage we're pretty sure is determinant for the whole grand scheme of things, who team up together to destroy a super weapon they just found out the bad guys had in their possession. On the other, Rogue One, a movie about a dissident Imperial cargo pilot and a girl whose lineage is determinant for the whole grand scheme of things, who team up to destroy a super weapon they just found out the bad guys had in their possession. Oh, but this one has what's-his-face in it. Now, I know a satirical, oversimplified perspective of things wouldn't get us anywhere, so let's dig deeper into each story. The Force Awakens was criticized for following the same basic plot structure from Star Wars. The baddies capture an important rebel who puts a MacGuffin in a droid, who eventually stumbles upon a young desert farmer whose lineage is unclear and with dreams of an adventurous life, who turns out later to be a Jedi, and together with an outlaw, they find an older mentor who introduces them to the Force, and then dies in the hands of a fallen Jedi with a dark mask. And then they all destroy a super planet-destroying weapon who has a major design flaw, and they live happily ever after. Or at least until the sequel. While the similarities are as uncanny as a CGI Peter Cushing, one can argue that what we were given was the robotic plot we were looking for, and how distracting it is depends on how distracting you find a movie having the same plot points as a movie released 30 years ago is. Personally, I felt more insulted by the fact that Rey, being a girl neglected by her parents, taken to an oppressive environment who later finds out has magical powers and proceeds to use them in order to win the film, is basically the plot of 1996 Roald Dahl film Matilda. Similarities aside, the thing to understand here is how well done the plot structure is, no matter how unoriginal it might be. We start off with a raid from the New Order, and a Force-manipulating, deep-voiced masked villain who pillages the camp asking for the map to Skywalker to a smart-mouthed pilot. Well, the writers went straight to the droids the fans were looking for on this one, throwing a great number of engaging elements at us, with lots of unanswered questions we're genuinely interested in, such as the map to Skywalker, which means Skywalker, which means he's hiding, which means everyone's looking for him, and which means he's crucial to whatever conflict the galaxy is in. Then there's a previously presumed extinct Jedi, with a mask, a deep voice, stopping a blaster laser in midair, meaning there are more, they're powerful, and they're Darth Vader-ish. All with introductions to 3 of the main characters, Finn, Poe, and BB-8. Of course, however well played out the beginning might be, the ending has a girl who just heard about the Force and an ex-Stormtrooper rookie who couldn't beat another Stormtrooper beating that same Super Jedi who we saw in the beginning, who turned out to be just a Nine Inch Nails fan or some shit. I know, he was badly injured by Chewie's shot, but if that were the case, why not just make him faint or crawl through the ground? At least we would have an excuse for Finn to put up a fight or Rey to outpower them. Hell, put in that voodoo kid from the Temple of Doom, I don't care. Just give some dignity to our Han Solo killing hero. Oh, there are spoilers in this review, by the way. The middle revolves around the interaction between the characters, in a kind of space road movie, which I have to say, captures the spirit of the good part of the franchise and feels like Star Wars. Of course, the fact that it repeats the same basic plot also helps. As for Rogue One, it starts somewhat strong with Jyn Erso's having a really lousy day, but then it becomes a bit clumsy when trying to take us into the story, consisting of mainly landings and planet-establishing shots, and we hop from place to place, completing Jyn Erso's arc, which would, let's face it, a generally bland movie. But then, that's when Rogue One starts, as in the story about Rogue One, and not the story about a girl who needs closure about her neglecting father. While we're at it, was it really necessary to go through all those plan-snatching shenanigans? I mean, couldn't he just have told her through the hologram, or told the fallen pilot, shoot the exhaust port? But I digress. The actual Rogue One story we wanted to see is the third act, where an awesome series of Rube Goldberg-esque set pieces are laid out in order to entertain us, and God does it deliver. Also, there are 2 appearances from good old Vader. In the first, he's just chatting, generally being not anything like the prequel's Anakin, and of course, Vader's ending scene, which seemed a bit of a cheap trick on the production's part to cash in on our nostalgia. But then again, so would be handing out hookers and cocaine during the screening. I'm not complaining. Nostalgia is real and can be used to good effect. It's just that they could have just made a 10-minute short called Darth Vader's Bubblegum Just Ran Out. It would have saved me the trouble of watching an hour-and-a-half plot about generic, yet diversity-friendly characters, even if 2 of them were cool. The non-Jedi shell and Force user with a stick, and the guy with the only automatic weapon in the galaxy, it seems, which in hindsight seems like a better asset than the Death Star. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy both movies. It's just that The Force Awakens was character-driven space western criticized for being too similar to the first movie, and Rogue One was a C-plus sci-fi flick with some awesome last 30 minutes pasted on top. Also, The Force Awakens benefits from the Chewbacca factor. As you can see, The Force Awakens has 1 Chewbacca, and Rogue One has 0 Chewbaccas. You can't deny it, he is a really good co-pilot. I mean, the hyperdrive motivator won't fix itself.